Welcome to Jurassic Park.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while?
Do you want to know what it is?
There's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
There's a special rug in hell reserved for people who waste good scotch.
He peed on my rug!
He peed on the dude's rug.
Do your worst.
Final report of the commercial starship Nostromo.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Welcome to your feature presentation. I am your host, Heath Ball. Today we are talking about Star Wars TV shows. There's some rumors about a Darth Vader show. It's going to be a good time. Firstly, we're going to talk about movies coming out this weekend. But most importantly, with me today is Andrew McKay.
Wow. Thank you so much. Most importantly, usually it's the last and the least, Mr. McKay.
The man who's truly lacking, Andrew.
Lacking in most ways, actually. You'd be surprised.
He is there. No, he's great. He's wonderful. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Time. Usually, hey, it's good to see you too, buddy. Wow. Question for you.
Yeah.
Do a little question for the pod episode.
Ooh.
Of scientific advancements that are currently brewing, which are you most excited for? So obviously, movie podcast. I'm thinking like, in the 70s, the prosthetic technology that we have now would seem like shoulder to shoulder with some Star Wars fiction. What is like in your brain for, I cannot believe that in a couple of years we're going to have this?
I don't know. I think space travel, like
commercial space travel, just buy a ticket.
I'd like to go to space, and then just even the idea of exploring other planets, other worlds, unique civilizations. Yeah, that gets me excited. Like a modern day Magellan? What? How about you?
She? I never heard of her.
Magellan?
I think of space travel's up there. I think of Neuralink, specifically from Elon Musk's. I don't know what that company is called. I think it's just called Neuralink. Are you familiar with this?
No.
So it's a microchip that gets embedded into like the base of your skull, essentially, and it's supposed to bridge a broken connection that your brain has down your spinal cord. So potentially, or the idea is that paraplegic people will have access to their limbs again. They'll be able to relearn how to use their arms and legs, or just like any sort of paralysis or physical, like if there's a severing point, like an accident happens and you have spinal injuries, potentially Neuralink is the solution to bridge that gap and let your brain communicate with your body fully again, which is insane to me that we could make that. There are a couple Neuralinks in humans right now. I think this year is the first time that they started human trials, but that blows my mind that like you could be paralyzed from the waist down and there could be a solution for it. Like you'd have to relearn how to walk and stuff. But just that door being open is crazy to me.
Wow. You're pumped about this.
I've been thinking about it all year. I'm just kidding. No, I just like to talk. That's why I'm on a podcast.
That's why you're on a podcast. Well, yeah, that's really interesting. And I do think a lot about, too, how many times we see advancements in movies and how we've talked about this before, but AI is so big right now that people are like afraid of it, and people are
sure.
And I think that's a lot of things that science fiction movies teach us, right? Is to be careful with this unlimited power, you know? But I think we see so many times as the advancements have happened that there's nothing that like people were afraid of the TV because they thought we were going to get, whatever. It's like, okay, it's just a TV, but like, AI and stuff. It's like there's definitely I see the arguments of like the danger, and then movies are all about the evils of AI, but it's just at the same time, it's like I don't think we can stunt our growth, or we shouldn't we shouldn't stop something.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah.
I don't want to be Jurassic Park lawyer.
That's what I was going to say.
You could do 5,000 a day, 10,000 a day, and people will pay it, and the
But
lack of humility.
At what point do we ask? Not can we, but should we?
Yeah. They didn't start to ask if they should. Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
So I think
Asking the questions to the stars.
Hey, I think any good science fiction or fantasy is like a really good lie in that it's next to the truth. It's pretty close to the truth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth in those stories, and whoever makes those stories has to decide, okay, where am I going to fabricate some stuff and make this an interesting story? And I think that's why people have such adverse reactions to technology from a fictional realm, fictional story, kind of breaking out into our like society, like AI. Obviously, everyone thinks about the Terminator. That's an engaging story because it tries to convey the truth of humanity within a fictional context of like what would happen. Everything else is the same. All these people act like people. So I think that's why people freak out, is because they can connect, even if they've never seen the Terminator. They know like, oh, if there's a war, people die in war, and AI started a war in that movie one time. So it's just like, yeah, I think I'm with you. I don't think there should be like a scaredy cat mentality. We got to push through with technology.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Jurassic Park model, Terminator. When you were talking too, I was thinking Terminator, which I really enjoy the Terminator movies, and Alien are so unique because Terminator is, if this terrible thing happens, which is AI becomes self-aware, tries to exterminate humans, like that happens in the movie. And if that would happen, this is how terrible it could be. And then the entertainment factor is like trying to figure out how to stop it. Alien, I feel like, is more of like a fable because it's so much like the are you familiar with Alien? Have you seen?
Oh, I don't know if I am familiar with the movie you're talking about.
There's this man named Harry Dean Stanton, the true hero.
Shout out Harry.
Shout out. But it's a fable because it is the idea of the corporation wants to weaponize the issue, and
some sort of organic resource. Yeah.
Yes. They want to research it. They want to use it as a weapon. They want to, I think it's, I can't remember. Is it 4 that they're like, yeah, we want to weaponize it. But like even in 2, she's like, leave this thing alone.
Yeah. Like it's like, okay, I'll go with you, but you can't try and bring it back, promise. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Did you crush your fingers?
Space Marines, man. Yeah. Sweet. Wow. Well, what a great question of the day. That's going to conclude our episode today. So
spent 30 minutes right on the question of the day opener.
That's great. So let's jump into the movies coming out this weekend.
We have Oddity and Twisters. So Oddity is a horror thriller. This is about uncovering the truth behind a sister's death with the help of a wooden mannequin. Gross. 2 thumbs down for Andrew. No thanks.
Mannequin, I'm out.
Yeah, honestly, the like dolls or mannequins, inanimate objects that look like people that come to life, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I could do it. I don't wanna. I don't watch that.
Did you watch the Annabelle movies?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I don't know where this fear comes from. I think it comes from like being a stuffed animal kid. Like I had a plethora, and the thought that one of them could have been evil has always just like really got me. Like trying to catch one out of the corner of my eye, like Toy Story, but they're trying to kill me. Right? Like, did you just move? Hands yourself. Watch it.
It's a real thing. I always remember, not in a freaky way, but I always wondered if my toys were like real. Like I always remember being like careful to not like offend them when I was a little kid. Just like,
Yep.
I want to make sure everyone's good. You know, if I leave the room, you guys come to life. I better
Oh, I better be in your good graces.
be good.
It's a good life skill. Wow. So Twisters up next. Glenn Powell. Burr, burr, burr. I just watched a movie with Glenn Powell in it, so that was cool. Anyway, Twisters is another movie with Glenn Powell in it. He's a retired tornado chaser and meteorologist, and he's persuaded to return to Oklahoma to work with a new team and new technologies. Speaking of technological advancements, how much crazier do you think chasing a storm is now relative to the early 90s?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's more ridiculous now because I feel like maybe the older the movie is, the more there was like that could happen, you know? I was even thinking of when we were talking about the Jaws movie. We brought that up, how like, you know, it's in the 70s. How many people have seen an ocean, like an underwater shot of the ocean in the 70s?
Yeah.
You can't just look that up online. And it's like, there was so much of that, just like the movies were the only place to see certain things like that. So like, I feel like there's a little bit of grace of like, we can actually turn back a tornado with technology. People would be more apt to be like, whoa, that's
You're
crazy.
kidding.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So we got Twisters and Oddity releasing this weekend. Heath, of the two, which one would you go see?
I don't know. I think Twisters looks fun because it feels like it knows what it is. I think it's a bit of camp. You know, it's some ham. You know, ham and Swiss.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'd see that one. What about you?
I'd probably go Twisters.
Yeah.
Michael Crichton is a writer for this movie.
Oh, really?
Was he connected to the original story, or did they just get him to come write a Twisters movie?
I don't.
Oh, he
know.
was Twister. Yeah, he was a writer in 1996.
Oh, that's hilarious. So yeah, the
There you go.
Jurassic Park
And Twister.
and Twister.
What a combo.
Classic movie.
Man, those are actually very similar to each other. They're in universe.
Right. There's actually dinosaurs in this movie.
Yeah, you just can't see them.
Yeah. Well, cool. Awesome. All right, let's get to the heart of our show today.
Yes.
We're excited. So this was just one of kind of like a change of topic for us because we were like, ooh, we should talk about the new Darth Vader show, but then there's some stuff coming out that it's like a rumor. So this isn't for sure, but there's rumors, quote unquote, of a Star Wars TV show about Darth Vader.
So I think the rumors started because Vader appeared in the Tales of the Empire, or I forget if it was, I think he appeared in it. And if he hasn't, then he has some sort of animated appearance this year, 2024. But I believe it was Tales of the Empire. And so I guess when people were talking with Disney, and Disney was like, yeah, Vader's coming back 2024 to be in a TV show, they took that and ran with it. So it kind of went crazy over the internet for a second. I don't believe that the show will happen anymore, but it got me really thinking, would I like a Vader show? You know, we have so much content around Anakin becoming Darth Vader, and then him as the main villain and one of the best villains of all time in 3 other movies, but not necessarily the main character. And there's a big space between, so there's a potential there. And I'm wondering what you think, Heath. Do you think if a Vader show was made right now with the state of Disney, would you be happy with it? What would you want to see? What do you think?
I don't know. Like my first reaction was, no, I don't want that. But then I saw people talking about the comic book series, like the Charles Soule.
Yeah.
And like there's some really cool stuff that is going on during the like original trilogy, like him going to Exegol and confronting other like apprentices of like the Emperor, and different things like that. So like I think there is a show there, but that would not be my first choice, I think, for a TV show. It's hard because I feel like we're going to talk about the Acolyte in a couple episodes.
Yeah, sure are.
But Star Wars in general, I feel like, besides like Mandalorian season 2, I think everything has been a bit lacking for me.
Yeah.
It's just not exactly what I want. Doesn't mean I'm not enjoying a lot of the other stuff, and we'll get into that in our Acolyte episode. But I kept thinking, I just don't know. I mean, Obi-Wan to me was so fun, but it just wasn't amazing, you know. I don't know. So I think I struggle with, like, I'm imagining it's going to be a lot like Obi-Wan, and we got more Darth Vader, you know, and I'm like, I don't know. So I wondered, like, what I would want the most, like what Star Wars show would I want? And I've got 2 answers, but I would love
Very cool.
So do you have one that you're like, what is your top Star Wars TV show that you would want to come out?
Wow. I think ever since I saw, not Tales of the Empire, but the Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I've been pretty pleased with the animated stuff that Disney has done with Star Wars. They got the rights to Star Wars. Eventually, they finished with Dave Filoni. They finished the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And the Visions stuff, super fun, not canon. Some of them are a miss, but most of them are hits for me. But the Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire, I've really, really enjoyed. So to answer your question, I would want a Qui-Gon Jinn under the tutelage of Count Dooku whole series. Yeah. Because that point in time, you don't have a big bad guy that's a Sith, right? They don't know about them. Watch out for Ki-Adi-Mundi. He might know. I don't know. They don't know about them. So really the political drama, the political aspect would shine through. And I feel like you would get a lot more of the moral gray area as Dooku starts to uncover this gray area that the Jedi are sitting in, that they aren't actually morally and ethically sound like all the time, and how Qui-Gon struggles with that as his master is realizing it, and how that shapes him, because he's my favorite Jedi.
Yeah.
By far. So that would be, I think I would have to go with that.
Yeah, I just saw Dave Filoni talking about the Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
And how he was talking how the fate oh my gosh, it's so tongue tied. The Duel of the Fate is for Anakin. Like they are fighting for Anakin. And Dave Filoni didn't even say this, but I view it as like Darth Maul is kind of wanting to corrupt Anakin. Like, what if he would win that fight outright? Could he be the master of Anakin? You know, if he took over. Just a crazy thought I had. But the idea, but the idea of Qui-Gon wasn't able to train Anakin because he was killed already. Right. Qui-Gon's noble end. So it became Obi-Wan had to step up, and like Obi-Wan is one of the best Jedi we've seen, right? Like trained in the Jedi Academy, you know, he's good, but it's just like, I don't know, was he the best for Anakin? Would that have been different if Qui-Gon had trained him, you know?
That's my take on that, is that the Jedi did lose the Duel of the Fates. Even though Maul died but survived or whatever, Maul like lost the battle because he got cut in half.
Yeah.
I think that he won. That was a victory for Sidious. Because Qui-Gon was eliminated and wasn't allowed to teach Anakin, Anakin needed Qui-Gon because Qui-Gon's master was at that point not he hadn't embraced the dark side fully, but he had distanced himself enough to be his own Jedi Master, like his own person, who was wary and skeptical of rules for the sake of being rules, which is why he was like, what are you, like 9, 10 years old? Come on. There's rules against it, but like, who cares? You're the chosen one. So I think Qui-Gon could have raised Anakin and like taught him, and it would have turned out so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think,
I agree.
yeah, I think if both Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon had died, I don't think Anakin would have made it to Sheev, Palpatine. I don't think he would have. He would have stayed on Naboo and gone somewhere. I don't know.
Because it's interesting. It's one of those, that duel I think is actually the most important in the movie, but it doesn't feel that weighted because it's just they go off in a different room and fight, but they are really fighting for control. Like that is like the Sith are back. It's Jedi versus Sith. And I think I've heard a lot of people talk about they don't like that duel because it is not the Luke versus Vader type thing. You know, there's a lot of those sword fights are so important, and I think some people just view the Phantom Menace duel as like all flash, all visuals.
Oh,
but I'm like, the history of what's going on is so crazy. These are two ancient enemies, like fighting for the like over the fate of the galaxy. Like that's what's going on. And I think like if you look at that, you brought that up too. The Phantom Menace is such a crazy movie because you can watch it as a surface level, fairly fun Star Wars movie. Unfortunately, Qui-Gon dies, but the good guys, you know, win back their freedom, you know, and it's like they free the planet. And I'm like, but if you take a step back, the whole thing is a massive victory for the dark side. Yeah. Like the whole thing was just a ruse to get Palpatine in power. And he's like, I'm the Chancellor. And same thing that the Sith do is that these two sides, he made them fight each other, and like no blood on his hands, but he is now in power. And have we talked about the theme song that goes on? We talked about this.
I mean, you and I, just when we're hanging out, talk about the theme song all the time.
Right.
What do you got? What do you mean?
So I know we've talked about this. I can't remember if it's been on pod or not. But the song, the celebration at the end of the Phantom Menace, the da 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 da.
Oh yeah.
Da, 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 da. Go listen to it. It is the major key version of the Emperor's theme from the original trilogy. The da 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 da. They just threw it in a major key. Da 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 da. So it's like, man, John Williams is like, hey guys, this actually isn't happy. The bad guy fully won this movie.
Oh, that's such great storytelling.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think, man, I love our Star Wars rant. I keep wanting to be like, but we shouldn't talk about Star Wars. Like, we're talking about Star Wars. That's like my subconscious is like, hey, reel it back. You're probably talking about the Minions movie or something. You don't get to talk about Star Wars. I loved our Minions rant. Just like 20 minutes. The Lord of the Rings to the Acolyte. And it's like, yep. So that's our Minions thought. So I'll just tell you. So the two shows that I want to see, that I would love to see this made into some Disney era stuff is, firstly, I would love some live action Clone Wars. It's so right there. We got like a taste of it in Ahsoka, and I'm like, even just give me like a mini series or like, and well, I'd love to talk about this another time, maybe in our Acolyte review show. But I wish they were doing movies, like straight to streaming movies. So like instead of like 8 episode TV shows, like just stream me like a 2-hour story and be like, Ahsoka episode 1, you know. But I think a live action Clone Wars, just seeing Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka even just like redoing a classic Clone Wars arc. I don't know. I would find it so fun. The other one I really want is, this is my number one, is I would love to see like a Darth Bane TV show.
Oh, yeah.
So like the creator of the Rule of Two. So it was like the first Sith that was like, we need to only have 2 Sith instead of all these Sith, and we need to work in the darkness. We need one to hold the power, one to crave the power. That should be what Sith do. And I think it'd be kind of cool because you could kind of do it in a way of, it's kind of like an anti-hero, like it's the bad guys taking out the worse guys. So like, and I feel like, I think that's kind of what sometimes the different things struggle with, is like when they're showing it from the bad guy's perspective, there's like, well, who are you rooting for? You have to make that person so likable. So yeah, what are your thoughts on those ideas?
Well, I love that. I like your Clone Wars idea. Yes, it will be difficult as the years go on to make.
As the years go by, a friendship will never die. Yeah.
Oh, I know this one, Toy Story. Huh? I was like, man, another song I don't know. It'll get difficult to have Hayden and Ewan McGregor portray those characters.
Yeah.
That were younger than Revenge of the Sith, which was almost 20 years ago.
Right.
Because even in Ahsoka, it was like, oh, you guys are pretty heavily make-upped.
Yeah.
You know, you got a lot of stuff on there. So, which was great. I liked that episode. But anyway, the Darth Bane thing, I think would be so cool, so amazing. If the Acolyte continues to do what it's been doing, I think we have like an episode left, but with like how dark and mysterious Star Wars can get, we'll say that. I think Bane would be a really good thriller type show, like psychological thriller suspense, where this guy like has to pull himself up like from his bootstraps, working class man in the mines, you know. He just has these like extraordinary abilities, and he finds purpose and intention. You go, man, I like this guy. And then you find out, like, end of episode 1, oh, wait, you're joining the Sith. The Sith are like a giant institution. Oh, no, what's going on? Like, that'd be so fun. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, I think they will do it. I think we're going to get some stuff. And it, like, even if they do the books, and I feel like I'm one of those people, too. Like, I'm not really tied to the Star Wars books that much. There's some that I like.
Sure.
But I'm not offended if they change them completely. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in the Bane books, the Darth Bane trilogy. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm okay if you change stuff, you know, and you make it different. But like, he has a great story. You're right. I mean, he starts off in the mines, you know, working. And yeah, I just think there's a lot of potential there. But yeah, do you have another number one, or do you have, what would you most like to see?
Oh man, I think something to bridge the gap between Return of the Jedi and the Luke that we see in Mando. Was that Mando season 2? Ending of Mando season 2?
That he showed up for Grogu?
Yeah.
And we saw him at Boba Fett, which is technically the next thing, but
yeah, but that was the first time we'd seen him in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Because there are no movies after Return of the Jedi. Anyway.
Fortunately, they never made one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would love something to bridge the gap there. And I'm saying all this, and you're saying all of these good things. And I'm like, I just got to get into the Star Wars comics then. Because there's so many technically canon things, or maybe the comics aren't canon. They're like what we talked about a couple weeks ago, like soft canon.
Right.
But there's so many good stories being told in the Marvel Star Wars comics. Like, they're really high quality. I hear a lot of good things about them. And I'm sure some of those exist with Luke post Jedi. So that'd be really fun.
Yeah, I'm all about it. And I apologize if I think there's some vacuuming going on upstairs. If you can hear vacuuming, I apologize.
Well, I can't hear it.
Good.
That's all that matters is me.
That's true. My wife doesn't like it when I say that to her. All that matters is Andrew.
Yeah. You say it like every day. You gotta lay off.
It's like it's unprompted too. It's either just like I just like randomly look at her and it's like Andrew's all that matters, and she's like, "Why would you say that?"
I just made you lunch. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Sweet. Well, awesome. Well, I think let's wrap it up. Next week we're talking about some fun stuff. We're going to talk about if fans should be in charge of property. So kind of related to this topic, like there's been people who are like kind of gatekeeping, I guess, like you need to know this property to star in it, to create it, to write it. And I'm like, it's an interesting topic. So we should dive into that. Yeah. Why don't you take us home?
Yeah. Tune in next week, folks. It'll be a fun conversation. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're watching our full video show on YouTube, you'll notice my background is different. I have a NASA van poster. How cool is that? I have Anduril, the Flame of the West, and other nerdy things back here. Legos books. There's some magic cards down here, but that's too nerdy. I won't show you that. Anyway, I'm taking us home. You can find our podcast anywhere you get podcasts. You can find us on Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Comment, like, share. Helps us grow the channel. Tell your friends. It's always a good time hanging out here with us. Go see a movie.
Boom. Go see a movie.